Welcome to this Orchid training video. My name is Nathalie, and today we're going to go through Extender, or the configuration options. Firstly, briefly, what is Extender? Do you have any business or integration requirements that can't be met out of the box with Sage 300 functionality? If you want to configure notifications when data changes, customize Sage 300 business logic without complex code, develop your own views and screens without the complexity of the SDK, then Extender for Sage 300 is a module that you should be looking at. Extender comes in 4 different editions: Runtime to run certified Extender apps developed by Sage 300 business partners, Configurator for alert and logging, keep people informed, log changes to critical data, facilitate real-time integration with other systems, and is the focus of this particular video. Customizer to run custom scripts and screens to tailor Sage 300 to your business, and the Developer Edition to add new functionality and business logic to Sage 300 through custom tables, custom Sage 300 views, is the focus of a third Extender training video. So what we're going to look at today is Extender Configurator. Extender Configurator functionality is available with the Customizer and Developer license as well. So we can look at logging changes in Sage 300. You can select what you log. You can include the original value and the new value, and you can have multiple actions on the same fields. You can send email alerts based on changes in Sage 300 data. You can customize the email notification and send an email using a pre-configured email template. You can also choose to run an external program. So Extender Configurator can be a framework for custom integration to external programs such as vendor integration. And you can also create an Orchid note if you're running the Information Manager notes module from Orchid. Extender will create a note when field changes, record changes in Sage 300. So in this particular training video on Extender Configurator, we will look at activating Extender, checking the license and looking at the configuration options. We will then go through the detailed steps to set up a log event where you can combine all the changes so that you have only one single entry in the log per record changed, or if you don't combine the changes, you will have one record for each field that has changed on the Sage 300 view, and therefore you can track the original value and the after change value. And then we will look at how to use this logging information on the screen, in the inquiry logs, and in custom reports. We will then look at creating a detailed email event, configure the email settings, creating an email event type, and attaching it to a Sage 300 view. The other events we will look at are running a program and creating an Information Manager node. And finally, we have included some configurator tips around combining, don't combining, and the ability to import configurations that you might have done in one database into another using an Extender module. Okay, let's start with installing, activating, and the basic configuration options for Extender Configurator Edition. Look at installing and activating the module in a new company, check the license, review the security options, and look at the configure options to set email and to log user sign-on into Sage 300. To download, go to the Orchid website's product downloads area once you're logged into the website with your partner details. Find the version you're interested in this case I'm going to do 2019, and download the latest product update for Extender. Follow the prompts. I'm now ready to activate Extender in the company that I'm working with. Standard process in Sage 300, go to Administrative Services, Data Activation, and select Extender. You will be prompted to restart the Sage desktop as Extender works on the Sage 300 views, which are loaded as you actually start the company. So now I have my Extender menu on the left. In the setup area, I can check my license code, and I can see that I'm licensed for Configurator. Let's look at the security rights for Extender. Select Extender in here. Full, I have access to everything, so I can do all the configuration, I can run the scripts, I can access any custom tables, I can access all the modules. So that would be for all the power users are going to be setting up Extender. If I'm just in the setup groups, I can access all the setup screens that we're going to look at to configure events and attach events to views. If I'm in a group where I can just configure events, I will be able to add pre-configured email templates, log events to new views or modify how they work on given views, but I won't be able to amend the events themselves, so the content of the email alert or the content of the note that is being created. And final one would be users who have access to viewing the logs only. Now let's review the main options. On the setup options area, I can choose whether I want to log on users who sign on to Sage 300. So if I set that to yes and save, I can now, in inquiries log area, I can see that user admin has logged on at that time and on that machine. Next option that's relevant to look at is the email details that I will need to configure if I want to send email alerts from Extender. So we will look at that more closely when we look at the email event. And then finally, as in a lot of our modules, we have the Updates tab where you can go and check if you are running the latest product update. So now we've activated Extender, we can start configuring our first log event. So we're first going to create one called Don't Combine so that we can track the values before the change and after the change. And the examples we're going to use there are the AR credit limit and the customer name. We're also going to log all changes to IC options using a log don't combine and an upsert, so whenever a record is updated or inserted. We'll then create a log event where we combine all the changes, so we will have a single entry per record changed. And for this, we will use an insert on the EFT Bank. We can attach these log events to any Sage 300 view, so core modules like GL, AP, AR, OE, PO, and third-party modules developed in the SDK like EFT or RMA. We can log changes to individual view fields, and we can also log view operations such as insert, update, upsert, which is either an insert or an update, or delete. The logging will work when importing records using the Sage UI and also using the Sage web screens. Then we can view the logs on the screen where the change actually occurred through the Extender inquiry and through reports. Now that I've activated Extender, I can start configuring my log event. I'm going to go to Extender, Setup, Event Types, and create a log event. The first one I'm going to create is Don't Combine. That means that if I'm logging changes to, if 3 fields change on a particular view that I'm logging, I will have 3 records in the log, and I can then view the before and after the change. So that's my first one, and I'm going to create a second event called Log Combine. It's also a type, an action of log change. Note that if I'm going to apply these events to a delete field, whether I use combine or don't combine isn't going to make a difference. With a delete, I'm only ever going to get 1 record in the log saying that a particular customer or vendor or something was deleted. So now I can apply this log event to my AR customer table. To do this, I'm going to go to Extender, Setup, View Events and Scripts. and I'm going to look for my customer view. I can click on this little finder here that says all views, or use F6. It will load all the views that are active in my Sage 300 database, and that includes the core module, GL, AR, AP, Bank, third-party modules like EFT or RMA. And I'm going to look for a view where the description contains customer. AR0024, my AR CUS view. I'm going to select that. And now I can choose what field I want to log. So I want to do the credit limit using the finder. I'm going to log, and I want to do it when the customer name changes. And also the on hold flag. If I know the field name, I can type. When I click add, the first time I attach events to a particular view, I will be prompted to restart the Sage 300 desktop, which I'm going to do now. So now I can go and change customer details and see what happens. And I'm going to go into our customers, find our faithful Mr. Ronald Black, change the name. On the processing tab, I'm going to change the credit limit, and then I'm going to do something similar, log in as admin on the Sage desktop, find Bargain Mart, put the customer on hold, and change the credit limit to 5,000. Now I can go to Extender, Inquiries, Log, to view all the logging, everything that's happened to my customers. So I can see that logged in as Anne on the web screens, changes to Mr. Ronald Black have been logged, and logged into the desktop, my changes have been logged. If I use Control F, I can filter, find all the changes that have happened to Mr. Ronald Black. Or if I go Control F again, I can then clear the filter. By default, the logs will show me the last 30 days of changes that have happened. Another way that I can view the log is on the actual customer screen, find a field where Sage 300 does a put, so for example the credit bureau information, and type backtick tab, and that will filter the log still with the last 30 days, but for the customer that I'm currently looking at, and it will show me all the changes that have happened to that customer. Finally, I can go to Extender Reports and look at the log reports. So there's one logging report that comes out of the box. I can select some dates or which view or fields I'm going to filter by, but in this case, I've just started, I don't have a lot. I'm going to print the whole report, and this is a list of all the changes that have happened. You can customize your own report, and we'd suggest you start with the VI log that comes with Extender. Leave the same parameters so that it can be run from this screen, and just amend it as you like. In some cases, when you're logging changes to orders, for example, where there are two keys like order number and ord unique, you may need to tailor the report to retrieve the order number from the ord unique that is saved within Extender. The next example we're going to look at is logging any changes to any fields on the IC option screen. So to do this, we're going to go to View, Events and Scripts, find the IC option view, IC opt, IC0380, and we're going to choose Upsert. So whenever a record is created or updated, we're going to log all the changes. Because we're going to choose Don't Combine and Upsert, it will create a record for any field that changes on that view. So we need to use this sparingly, as if you're trying to log too many fields that are not that relevant, it may have an impact on performance. Again, because it's the first time that we add a view to this screen, we have to restart Sage 300. Go into IC options, do some changes, select the default item structure, and go into Extender Inquiry Log. And I can see all the changes that have happened to IC options. The final example we're going to look at is logging changes to the EFT Bank details. As you probably know, in EFT, vendor and customer and employee changes are logged in the EFT audit log, but the EFT Bank details, our own bank, aren't logged. So we can do that through Extender Configurator. So I'm going to use F6, find my EL Bank, and I'm going to do two things here. On upsert, so when I'm adding or updating a record, I'm going to choose the log combine event so that I have one record that tells me when the bank is inserted or when anything changes. And then I'm going to log key changes to the key fields on the bank, like the BSB and the account number, using a log not combine. So what I can do is go File, Open View Info, and that will open the list of all the fields that exist on that EL Bank table. I can type instead of using the Finder. And I'm going to create a log event whenever the bank name changes, the BSB account number, and account name. So add this, restart Sage 300, go to EFT Banks, find a bank and do some changes. Save. Now if I choose one of those fields and go backtick tab, I can see that the account number has changed, and I know whenever something has been updated. If I go to Extender Reports and I run my log report, I can see the different types of log events that I have access to using Extender Configurator. The next thing we're going to look at is configuring Extender to send an email notification when something happens in Sage 300. We can look at the email configuration options similar to the other Orchid modules. Considerations around combine and don't combine in the event, very similar to what we looked at in the log. You would combine if you want a single email per record changed, and don't combine to include the pre and post change values in the email template. The email template can include variables, and generally you'd have a different template for different view and different event for different Sage 300 view, because your email content will be different, whether you're notifying that something has changed on a customer or on a vendor or on an order. Again, we can attach our email notification to any Sage 300 core modules, GL, AP, AR, and third-party modules. The examples we're going to look at is sending an email when the AR credit limit changes, and sending an email when the EFT vendor details are changed. So to configure email notifications in Extender, we need to do three things. First, in Setup Options, on the Email tab, we're going to enter the SMTP details of our SMTP server. So like in the other Orchid modules, we'll put in the SMTP server name with the port when it's not using the default SMTP port, the user, the password, and the email that it's coming from, and we can send a test email. Send a test email, it's been sent successfully, and I can see that it's been received in Outlook. I can save these and move to the next step, which is creating my email event. So I'm going to send an email when the customer credit limit changes. Don't combine, and I'm going to send an email. I'm going to send the email to Bill at Sample Company, and going to do my email template. The email template can have the subject and the body can have variables like the date and time that the event happened, the operation, so whether it's an update or an insert, and then we can include in the variables any email from the view that this email is going to be attached to. One way to know the field names that we have access to is to go to Extender Inquiry View Info, and I can say type in the field name for my customer ID and for my customer name. If I'm not sure of the field name, I can look it up in here. So because I'm going to attach this to a don't combine type of email, I can use the original credit limit and the new amount. And then I can set dash as a separator. If I want the month first, I would put the MM before the DD, etc. Add this email template, which gets attached to my event type. And I can choose to notify the user that the email has been sent. So this is really useful if you are using the Sage 300 screens, but if you're going to import or use a macro to work on the records, you might want to set that to no. And finally, we're going to attach this to our customer view. I want this email sent when the credit limit changes. Choose this event and save. So as you can see, I can attach different events to the same field on the same view. I can go to Mr. Ronald Black, change the credit limit to 19,000. And I'm getting my notification that the email has been sent. So now if I go and look at Bill Bason's email, I can see that I've received my email notification. The final example we're going to look at is sending one email whenever a change occurs on the EFT vendor. As you know, EFT logs changes to vendor, customer, and employees. But in this example, we want to send one email when the records are updated. So to do this, we're going to go to Extender Setup, Event Types, and create an email combine event type. So we're going to call it EFT Vendor Email. It's going to be set to combine, so one single email, because we can then go and look at the EFT log to view the details of what has changed. Send to Bill Bason again, and my email message ID says that this particular vendor has been updated and who did it and when. I want to notify the user of the email sent because especially when we're setting things up and want to test, it's easier to check that it's actually worked. So next thing, I'm going to attach this in View Events and Scripts to the EFT Vendor view. I've already got an event attached to it, so I'm going to find it there, or I can use F6 to find all the views and look for the EFT vendor. And I'm going to choose Upsert, so whenever a record is inserted or updated, I'm going to send this EFT vendor email. If it's the first time I'm added, I'm going to be prompted to restart the Sage desktop. So I'm going to add EFT details for vendor 1350. So that's an insert into the EFT vendor table, and I'm having confirmation that the email was sent. Now if I change the account number, another email will be sent. And if I look at Bill's emails, I can see I've received two emails. One saying that vendor 1350 has been inserted, and the next one that the change has been part of an update. So I can go into the EFT audit log to view the detail of the changes. The next example we're going to look at is using Extender Configurator to run an EXE, a program. The typical example for this is for integration to other system. When a field changes in Sage 300, we run this program that will go and update another system or create a file. We have the same considerations around combine and don't combine. In many cases with run a program, you will choose combine for one single call to the program per record that is changed. So if 3 fields change on the AP vendor, the program will only be called once. The program must be an EXE. An extender can pass values to your program, for example, the ID vendor or the key field of the view we're attaching this event to. So when we attach it to a Sage 300 core view or third-party modules developed in the SDK, the program can then read the Sage 300 records and push to external systems or a web service or write to a file. The example configuration we're going to look at is around AP vendor. So we will create a new event type called AP integration, as what we want is call a particular EXE whenever changes happen on the AP vendor. So we're going to choose combine so that whenever any of the fields change, we're going to call that program only once per record change. So we're going to run a program, and here we call the program with the command line. So we're going to call an EXE called vendor integration, which reads the changes that have happened. We're passing it the vendor ID, so it's going to then log on to Sage 300, read the values that I'm interested in for that field, and pass that to a third-party application that needs access to the vendor. So I'm going to add this integration event to my AP 0015 AP vendor view. So I'm going to call this AP integration program whenever any of those fields change on the vendor. And whenever any of those fields change, the vendor ID will be passed to my program, and then my program can read the relevant vendor details from Sage 300 and pass them to the other application that needs access to updated vendor details. Finally, the last example we're going to look at is using Extender Configurator to create an information manager Orchid note automatically when something changes in Sage 300. This setup requires Orchid notes to be installed and configured, having at least a note type and the note type assigned to roles. We have the same considerations around combine and don't combine. So don't combine to include the pre and post change values in the note, and combine for a single note per record changed. The note template can include variables, the value that it was changed from and the value that it's changed to. And we can use view info to find the field names to create our note template. Typically, you would have one template for each view and therefore a note event for each view that you're going to attach a note to. The example we're going to look at is an AR credit limit note, so that the latest change to the credit limit can be displayed against the customer, but also when entering transactions such as AR invoices or OE orders. We won't go into the detailed setup of Info Manager Note, but just a reminder that for Extender to be able to create a note, I need to have created a note type, if necessary with a default category, and have allocated that note type to roles and then the role to a user. Then I can go into Extender Setup and create an event type where the action is going to be create note. So I can then choose my note type, determine what field is going to be the key. So it's going to be the customer, and design a note template. The note template works very similarly to the email template. I'm going to copy the same details as in my email. So now I'm going to attach this customer credit limit note event to my AR credit limit on the customer view. Come here and select customer credit limit note, save. So now if I come to my customer and change the credit limit to, let's say, 14,000, save this. My email notification has been sent and I can see the note against the customer. And as you can see, we can also see the note against an order entry for that customer. So the reason you could have multiple events on the same fields, in this case the AR credit limit, is for different purposes. So you'd log it so that you can view it on the screen or include it in a report, send an email notification so that the relevant person can act if necessary, and you'd create an information manager so that the relevant information, in this case the last credit limit change, is displayed to the user when they need it as they're processing transactions in Sage 300. So finally, we're going to look at how we can use extender modules to make this configuration easier. So I could develop a module on my test machine that has the full license for extender, create a new module that will include a log event, a few different email events, a few different note events, attach them to different fields in Sage 300, and build my little application for custom logging module. Once I've built that, I can import the module into a site that only has Extender Configurator. Obviously, I can also import it into a site that has Extender Customizer or Extender Developer. I've already prepared a module on my test machine, and now I'm going to come into Extender Setup Modules and import my module. Find the files I've created. Click Open. It's now been set up in here. I need to log out of Sage 300 and log back in to view my events. Once I log back in, I can see that I've got a log.combine and a log combine that have been created as part of that module. I can also go to view events and scripts, and I can see that I'm now logging a credit limit and the territory on the AR customer. On the item pricing, whenever something changes or a new price is inserted. And finally, on order entry, I'm logging the discount, percent and amount, and salesperson and salespercent percentages. Just a reminder that if I don't want to use a module, I can still use a file, export and export all to move all my events, view events and message templates from one system to another. So in summary, we have seen how in Extender Configurator we can still import a module with some extender events pre-configured. So we can build that on a machine with an NFR code and import into a client that only has configurator, or if we're moving things between setup configurations between a test machine and a live machine, using a module to record all those changes that belong, all those configurations that belong together, is quite useful. We've also seen that the same event can apply to different views. For example, the logging. Often with email and creating a note, you generally have one event per view, as the email or note templates are different. Similarly with run programs, generally you would run a different program for different views. So again, one event per view is quite common. On the flip side, you can have multiple events on the same fields. For example, you can log all the changes to store the pre and the post value and only have one email combining on an upsert. So users are notified by an email that something has changed for a record, and then they can view the detail log or a custom Info Explorer cube to view the log if they need to see more details. If you need more information on Extender and any other of Orchid modules, go to our website, orchid.systems, and look at the Extender product page. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you in the next training video.